The following show and its content are the responsibility of the show's producers and participants.
Information related in this program is not meant to substitute medical recommendations. Before starting a treatment program, you should consult your physician.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. Liftoff.
All right, welcome to the Couch Live here on WPSN99.com, the problem-solving network. We're here live with you each and every Friday. It's a beautiful Friday. The weather's it's decent enough, right? It's all right.
Still too hot for me.
I am the street-certified dope Dr. Louis Delgado here with you. Our 20th year in broadcasting the Couch Live, and there's Trinity, the Dharma guy.
Hey, what's up?
Keep the energy down. Keep the energy down. Don't be so excited, Trinity. Don't be so excited. You want to introduce yourself a little bit better, Trinity, and tell us who we're doing this for an hour so we can we don't have to do commercial breaks and all that stuff.
Well, yes, I'm so glad you asked.
Oh, there it goes.
You got
so realistic.
So our lovely sponsors. We have a couple different treatment facilities that we use regularly, both as a foundation and as a radio network, and that is Retreat Behavioral Health, Journey Pure, and Gatehouse Treatment. All three fantastic places with multiple facilities. We have Orange County Drug Free Coalition, of which they have been sponsoring this show for, as you pointed out, 20 years.
20
Thank you very much for that.
Nice.
Then we have the Now Matters More Foundation, of which he is the founder. I'm the president. You can see more about what we do and donate at nowmattersmore.org, or you can call at 833-NOW-MATTERS. That's 833-NOW-MATTERS. And then last but not least, we have Sports Subaru South, which they are having an event called Share the Love. Starts on November 15th through December 31st of this year. And they have agreed to give us $250. Subaru is going to match it, so $500 per car purchased during that time frame.
And by us, you don't mean us.
The Now Matters More Foundation.
There you go. Yeah. Try.
So, and then as always, you can follow us on social media at WPSN99, at Now Matters More, at The Dope Doctor, and at The Dharma Guy. And then this show will be aired later on at youtube.com/The Couch Live. I think that's it.
Love it. You did a fantastic job, Trying.
I do my best.
All right, and of course, if you're watching this on YouTube or you're watching on Facebook Live, you see that there's some other people here in the studio, and it wasn't Angel because you can't see Angel; she's hiding behind our guest on the couch. Well, there she is. If I do that, we can always see Angel. If you move a little bit, I can always see her. But of course, you can't see Angel, Trinity's lovely wife. But we do have a couple of other guests. Let me tell you why they're here. All right, so I want to get right into it, Trinity, because in the business of treatment,
yes,
we talk about different tools that we use, right?
Correct.
Different tools that we use to help the clients that are suffering.
Right.
You know, they're coming in for whatever reason, and we try to get as many professionals in place, try to put any type of treatments that we feel are evidence-based treatment. What are you laughing about?
I'm just waiting for you to say the phrase. Go ahead. The name of the show. I'm excited for it.
You got to build it up.
You're laughing over there. Some people go out there and get a yoga master and feel that if everyone does downward facing dog that we're good, and that helps. Some people go out there and buy horses because they feel if you pet a horse, maybe when you're sitting in that hotel room wanting to get high, you'll remember your relationship with that horse and you won't get high. I mean, that might work a little bit.
Sure.
And there's all kinds of things like that. Some people even have goats, Trinity, and they want goats to walk on their back.
Yes.
And that's the trick. That's what did it. That's what finally did it. And
sure.
They no longer want to get high because they had a goat walk on their back. And whatever it is, I mean, I'm not making fun. I'm kind of laughing at, we are the kind of industry that, man, we just want you to get better, so we're willing to throw anything out there. And the reason I laugh and joke about those things is because back in the day, I remember my sponsor said, if I had you stand in the corner, don't ask me, why'd you stand in the corner? Because at least while you're standing in the corner, you're not getting drunk or high.
Nobody puts a baby in the corner.
That's right. So in other words, this industry is willing to do whatever it takes. Sure. But the reason we're willing to do whatever it takes to get you clean is because we're the kind of individuals that'll do whatever it takes to get high.
Yes.
And to kill ourselves. Now, it's not always intended, right? Sometimes it's by accident. But the point is that addicts or using people are some of the most genius level individuals of figuring out how to get something done.
Yes.
There could be you could put an addict on Mars and they'll find a way to get high.
Yes.
It's just that's the way it is. So we put all these measures in place, and sometimes we have to protect our clients from themselves. Okay? And one of the things that seems to be popping up, Trinity, and nobody's like watching it.
I didn't even. It took me a while to process when you first told me what the show. I was like, "What?" Like,
right?
Okay.
Right.
All right. Sure.
Is because one of the things that's happening. There's a $1 billion industry out there, Trinity.
Yes.
And we're just not even. We're like this. We're like not even watching. And you know why we're not watching? Because we're so busy on this opioid epidemic that we're forgetting that we still have treatment for everyone, including those suffering from the opioid epidemic. And the problem is fake urine. Fake urine.
That's awesome.
Like, not just, like, I've caught people with fake members, you know?
Oh, interesting.
First of all, if you're going to buy a fake member, don't need to get grandiose about it, because that makes it a little bit too obvious. You know what I mean?
Sure.
You get the itty-bitty little one, and then, we'll look away because we don't want to embarrass you. But no. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about synthetic, fake urine. So let me introduce our guests. They come from Nona Scientific Labs. It's Matt Reynolds and Mac McKellar.
There you go.
So I said all these
Yeah.
M's.
Anyway, so Matt Reynolds, you're one of the owners of Nona Scientific.
Yep, I own it with my business partner Mike Palmer.
Right on.
And we owned it for a little over a year now.
Right.
And yeah, man, we're it's a $1 billion industry, like you said, and it's not slowing down. And if the word doesn't get out of how big it is, people are going to keep abusing the system, and so that's why we're here.
Of course they are.
Yeah, man.
It's what we do.
I mean,
right?
my first thought though is like, wouldn't you be able to tell like right away that it's not real urine? I mean, doesn't that pop up somewhere?
So here's what's crazy, and we can both get into this later.
Right. Well, let's introduce him before we do that.
Yeah.
So, Mac, what's your position in the company?
Yeah, so...
all right, that's enough. Thank you very much, Mac. No, I was kidding. I was kidding. All right, go ahead. Mac, what's your position in the company?
Can I start talking now? Is that fine? I got it. Let's see if you're going to jump in. Yeah, so I am, my task is to head up sales. So it's director of national sales, and I get the privilege of reporting to Matt and Mike, and just really spreading the word on this epidemic and seeing what we can do our part to fight it. So it's like you guys said, it's a silent killer that's just growing and growing, and so try to get that word out.
Right on. So what were you going to say, Matt?
No, it's just crazy. We go to meetings with huge entities here in Florida, that are very involved in the rehabilitation process.
Right.
And until we bring it up, no one knows about it. Literally no one. People are blinded by it, like
Here's what I bet you get. I bet they tell you, oh, we don't have that problem.
That's the first thing
we watch people when they urinate, so we don't have that issue. Plus, the lab what we use, they test for adulterations. Mm-hmm. That's probably what you get
every time.
Okay, now what is the answer? And by the way, we will get, after you answer that, I want to get to the elephant in the room, the lab thing.
Yep.
To knock that out, because everybody's got their little hang-ups. But go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, so here's the thing. It's a $1 billion industry.
Right.
It's going to consistently grow, right? The $1 billion number that we know about was from 2016.
Right.
I mean, we're 3 years ago.
Oh,
so,
wow.
If you follow trends of anything that's marketed, normally it doubles, sometimes triples every other year.
Right.
I couldn't even tell you the number right now. I mean, but we know it's huge. And it's kind of messed up. Well, it's really messed up. But you can go on YouTube, you can go on Google, and you can put in how to beat a drug test. Well, first of all, depending on how long you want to sit there, there's millions of ways to do it.
Right.
But now if you go in and you put in how to use fake urine, synthetic urine, fetish urine, these are all the names for it.
Wait, what was that? Fetish?
Fetish urine, yeah.
So that's what it says.
Fetish urine. That just, I don't want to Google that.
Yeah,
so don't Google that.
God.
Have you ever heard of R. Kelly?
Wow. Boom.
That's
Yeah,
funny.
so that's how they get it into the United States.
Okay.
So it is imported and exported as a novelty item.
Okay.
And so now I don't know. I'm not even going to go into why you would buy fetish urine.
Right.
I mean, I'm
right.
not.
No.
That's not even my remote realm. But yeah, man, you can now. When we first got into this, we were finding it mostly at the vape shops, the head shops. That sold all the different flavored and vape toppers. Now it's in. The problem is it's in convenience stores. I mean, it's everywhere you turn.
Well, don't accidentally buy the wrong thing.
Yeah, it's everywhere you can turn. And what's even more disturbing is when you go in and buy it, bro, they'll give you a roadmap exactly how to use the stuff. Wow. I mean,
does it say not meant for human consumption on the bottle?
I don't know if it says that, but I will tell you that it definitely says fetish urine, but then it'll say for novelty and research use only.
Okay.
And toxin free.
Yeah, and toxin free, which we can get into.
Yeah, we'll get into that later. Remind us to bring up the toxin free. That is off the
No,
charts.
I might throw you way off.
Well, the funny part, though, is everybody. It's just funny that we're talking about this to me because I'm sure you've gotten. Well, I know you've gotten this just because of what we do.
Yeah.
Everybody's got an opinion on how to beat drug.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Yes.
Well, you got to stand on your foot and you cucumber. I mean,
drink 8 gallons of water and drink the.
I
mean,
everybody's
we hear it all.
got an opinion on what can and can't happen.
Yeah.
So the old day, you would just do the inositol or whatever the hell, and then just feel like you're having a heart attack.
Yeah. Back in the day, inositol powder and water.
That's it.
You could fool any drug.
That's
test,
it.
And
that's why I just stuck it into cocaine. I was selling. I said, look, you're already beating the urine with that. I put inositol into cocaine, so you're good.
But I mean, seeing the evolution of beating the drug strain is what's crazy, and everyone thought, I've seen it all, right? From bringing in a condom full of someone's actual urine to sneaking someone into the bathroom, when the staff's not looking to have them urinate in it, to adding water, to crushing up the pill and putting it on top of your, there's so many things.
Putting the Clorox on your fingertip.
Yeah. Yep. If I had $1 for even let's say this week, any doctor we talk to, some doctors don't know what it is, but it's without a doubt there's always 1 to 2 staff members who are like, oh yeah, I know what that is, or my cousin or my friend, and all of a sudden the doctor's like, are you serious? And they don't realize it, but people know what it is.
Well, this is why I wanted you guys to come in. First of all, the reason I wanted you guys to come in is because you just say the word lab in our industry. So let's get rid of the elephant.
Yeah.
You just say the word lab in our industry, and because we just went through like shell shock, our industry got rocked with a lot of different things, right? The pill mills flooded our industry with a lot of new clientele, but it also brought in the criminals that left from the pill mill industry and figured out, well, now I got them sick. How do I get them well? It's almost like back in the day when they put all the breasts in and then they took all the breasts out.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the same thing.
Yep.
But then the labs got manipulated by some really crooked owners and says, well, I'll use your product, but you're going to have to hook a brother up. And so kind of ruined that whole industry. The lab industry has been existing forever. Without complication.
Yep.
Then all of a sudden it got involved in our industry and we just screwed up the lab industry. So let's get back to what really is true, which is lab is still scientific. It's still an effective tool that we all need, because if I don't know what's inside you, then I now no longer have my MRI. I don't have my X-ray. And to practice in a health industry without your MRI and X-ray, you can't effectively practice. So if we take labs out of the equation, and there's a lot of treatment centers that are very proudly saying, I don't use labs anymore, I don't trust labs, or I don't need. I hear that and I get concerned.
Yeah.
Because then you can't protect your client against themselves.
Right.
And that's what the labs are really for. It's a therapeutic tool that we need to protect our clients from themselves. And you knowing that if we have $1 billion industry out there selling, and you have all the treatment centers not testing for it, well, if I don't test for K2, then my clients tend to go to K2. If I don't test for alcohol, they tend to be okay with drinking. Whatever you don't test for, you open the door for someone to bleed into your treatment center or into your medical office, your medical practice, and say, hey, by the way, they don't test for this, right?
Yep.
And that's why I wanted you guys to come in. Number one, because labs have had a bad name, but treatment centers have too, but yet we know treatment works. Well, you know what? Labs work too. And so I wanted you guys to come in and kind of just talk about what you guys are doing, because it's very different. It's unique. And I was shocked when you said you're the only one that actually tests for this. So I had to have you come in.
Yeah, man. So
why is that?
So we're the only one in this area. right? There's other labs.
This area meaning Florida?
Meaning Central Florida, correct.
Oh, Central Florida.
Central Florida.
Okay.
Right. And really it was by luck and, the big man upstairs liking us, one of the owners of the technology that can detect the synthetic urine just happened to be a personal friend of mine and my business partner.
Right.
And
Friends are good.
Yeah, and so when he first came to us, he's like, "Oh, can you guys detect for synthetic urine?" Well, when you buy these, these elaborate machines, and you buy all these reagents, we were like, of course we can test for it. We can test for anything, right? We can look at specific gravity, and we can look at creatinine, pH, and that's how all the old school stuff used to be drug tests, right? They used to play around with specific gravity and pH and creatinine.
Sure. That's how I used to check.
Yeah,
it.
everyone
or
did.
temperature,
or temperature, right? Right,
Mm-hmm.
everything like that. So we're like, yeah, but I mean, we can totally detect this.
Right.
He's like, okay, sure you can. So we're like, all right. So he came to the lab and he's like, all right, run this and tell me what you find. So we ran it and we're like, yeah, it's clean. It's normal urine. He's like, okay. He goes, now, and he pulled out this box.
Right.
And the box said quick pass on it. I'm like, what is this? He's like, that's what I just fooled your machine with. I'm like, oh my gosh. He goes, now imagine how many rehab facilities are in the state of Florida. Imagine how many Suboxone clinics are in the state of Florida. Imagine how many methadone clinics are in the state of Florida. And imagine if every one of those patients who was attending one of these facilities knows about synthetic urine.
Right.
He goes, now you by taking on this product, this test, you can make a difference. And that's really how it happened.
Right.
It was we knew a guy that owned part of the company, and we worked together. And now the word's just been spreading like wildfire. But again, man, it's everyone, like you said earlier, everyone talks about the epidemic, the opioid epidemic.
Yeah.
But what are the solutions?
And
right?
how did we get here?
And how do we get here? So there's got to be a way. If you look at patients that go in and out of facilities, the average patient goes in and out 5 times.
Right.
Well, there's got to be cheating, lying, stealing, everything else that's continuing that cycle.
And substituting. And I think that's one of the biggest problems. I mean, you may be in a facility, and maybe you do watch. A lot of residentials do.
Yep.
A lot of detox facilities watch, but a lot don't. But regular doctors' offices, an outpatient, an IOP, they don't.
No.
That's not the norm
And
to watch them. And that's where the prevention of the relapse really comes to play, right? Because if someone does really well in a residential placement, getting off opiates, getting that heroin out of their system, getting into recovery, blah blah blah. Someone tells them, but you can smoke pot, or you could do this or you could do that. Try kava, you could smoke K2, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Spice, whatever. Then they go and realize, well, I can't do those things at that IOP that I'm going to. Well, then. Or I can't do that with that doctor I'm going to that's giving me my monthly medication.
Yeah.
They go, well, yeah, but do they watch you urinate?
Yeah.
No. Well, then that's a client.
Yeah.
We talked earlier off the air about the DOT people, the drivers.
Yeah.
They're not being watched. You get a cup and you go by yourself somewhere else and you put it through a hole or something like that is how it's typically done, right?
Yeah, and what's crazy now is even though we talk about observed collection, man, you can go, the internet sometimes is the greatest thing that's ever been invented, but sometimes it's the worst thing that's ever been invented, right? We all know that. You can buy, so there is apparatuses, and I'm not going to go into descriptions, but that you can wear like you would wear an undergarment by your underwear.
Called a Whizzinator.
Whizzinator.
Yeah.
It looks
That's the one I caught.
It looks just like a male penis. And now they have a tampon that females are using that they actually are inserting like a tampon. And when they go to the observed collection site, they tell them that it is my time of the month, and they can detect or they can withdraw the synthetic urine from this implanted tampon.
It's got a little capsule.
It's got a little capsule.
Fill it.
So listen, man. I mean,
my lab used to say we don't want urine when they're on their time of the month. Like you weren't supposed to send that specimen.
Now I mean the way the technology is, it doesn't matter.
Let's get back to but just a synthetic urine. So it comes in a little capsule.
Okay.
That it's got a temperature strip on it. Every time you do a urine drug screen in an office, the cup has a temperature strip because that's the first thing you tell. It has to be within a certain range to be correct.
Right. Yeah.
Accurate.
It's got to be warm.
Yeah. So so the patient puts it in the microwave at home. They pull it out. The package comes with 2 hand warmers.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see it.
That you then put around the little capsule to keep it within the normal range. Then they can bring it in. They can put it in their pocket. They can put it in their underwear. It either has a twist-off pour top if it's not observed collection. It has a little top that's like pressurizer. They can like squeeze it in to make it sound like they're urinating. They can put it into the Whizzinator. They can put it into a fake tampon. It's also toxin free.
Yeah,
which I don't want to steal your glory. You can say this part then.
So you like the toxin?
Well, it's just when we first read this, I'm like, why would it say toxin free?
Oh boy,
I didn't understand.
I'm afraid to hear your answer.
So when people go into rehabilitation clinics, prior to going in, they will catheterize themselves. They will do what's called bladder dumping. They will drink water. They will empty everything that's in their bladder. They will self-catheterize themselves with this toxin-free synthetic urine. Therefore, when they go into, if they go into a court-mandated rehabilitation facility and they're whizzing clean, well, if they do that 2 or 3 times, remember the bottle, you can see it online. The bottle's like this big.
Right.
It's enough to get through a couple drug tests.
Yeah.
They're going to get out early, and then they're going to go right back to what they were doing beforehand. So, yeah, I mean, the levels that people are going to trick these tests is like nothing we've ever seen before.
And I'm more concerned, to be honest with you. I'm less concerned about someone asking for help, and going to a treatment center and doing this than I am DOT. Department of Transportation.
Yeah.
Kind of individuals, pilots. People that have worked really hard to reach a certain level of professional that are at risk. Physicians.
Yeah.
People that know that they're going to go do a drug test and it's a one-time
parents
drug test. Parents. Those for to get away from the reunification.
Yeah.
Parental reunification. If you're in foster, your kids got put in foster care because of your drug use.
Yeah.
Because treatment centers do at least want to hear what you have to say.
Yep.
But the average everyday doctor's office that has, they don't ever just change unless they really, really have to. Like some of these physicians are prescribing the exact same medication they did 20 years ago.
Oh,
they do the same protocols they did 20 years ago
because they know their patients, right?
So they must be the difficult ones to tell, because I remember speaking to physicians and saying, what do you do with your alcoholics or your addicted people? Like, how do you, what do you refer? What's your protocol? And they go, well, I don't treat alcoholics. I don't have alcoholics. I go, no, you treat them. You just don't treat them for alcoholism.
Correct.
Because you're not asking the question, or you don't know how to assess it.
Or you don't want to know.
Or you don't want to know.
So is that what you're finding, that people just don't want to know?
Man, I
mean, what's the hang up? I mean, like, why isn't everybody testing for this? And you know what I mean? Like, why isn't it a bigger deal?
Well, I mean, us being one of the, the first lab here locally to get out, a lot of them don't know it. So that's, what we're tasked with is spreading the word, or getting a doctor to give us a shot. I mean, imagine being a doctor who is familiar with the state guidelines regarding opioid prescribing, having your patients fill out the right forms, doing drug screens, but being fooled, right? And so the biggest thing for us is getting them to give us a shot, and as soon as we pop the first one, it's no longer a story, or this happened to a patient in California. This is one of your patients, doctor, and we're catching them.
Oh, we catch them all the time.
Are there numbers of is there data that supports that this is being done in Central Florida, in our area?
Yes.
We're compiling that.
We're compiling the data right now. That's
from what you're catching, though.
From what we're catching.
But how about the sales of the fake urine? Is there data that says this much fake urine is actually sold in Florida?
Not in Florida. It's not broken down by state, not to my recollection.
No.
And the last census that we have is 2016. The company that we've partnered with that has the reagent, so to speak, that runs in our machine to test this, they're consistently looking at that. That's why I said earlier, I can't wait to see the 2017 and 18 data, because, again, if it doubles or even triples, we're now at a multi-billion-dollar industry of importing fake urine for people to beat drug tests.
Right. Well, I mean, people were beating drug tests with synthetic substances for a while. I remember when I brought in the testing for synthetic, like I said, the K2 spice and stuff like that. We didn't know what we didn't know. We were testing 700 people, twice a week in a large, outpatient program that I was consulting. Never tested for it, so we didn't know. Had this aggression happening, and then so we talked to the lab and says, look, we want to include that. We want to rule that out. Just add that as something we're testing for. Next thing you know, boom, we found out that we had breakout.
Yeah.
Like somehow it spread that because we weren't testing for it, they could use it. And it changed the whole ball game for us. Yeah. So I'm kind of hearing it like that. I'm kind of hearing it like, if we don't know, then we don't know why we're having all these relapses. We don't know why people are thinking they can go on and use other things. And, in recovery, you learn that if you're addicted to one thing, you're at risk for something else. And if you use something else, you might come back to your drug of choice. So that's why you quit everything.
There's a lady out of Cincinnati who unfortunately lost her son to drugs.
Right.
And when they were going and cleaning out his room after he had passed, and he had been in and out of rehabilitation, 4 or 5 times? Yeah.
But doing well in their eyes.
But doing well in his parents' eyes. They thought he was, sober and everything was fine. Well, unfortunately, he did OD and he passed away.
Right.
And when they were cleaning out his room and going through his things, they found synthetic.
A whole bunch of boxes under his bed.
Yeah, under his bed. That's what he had been using to make the system, and his family members and his friends believe he was sober.
Right.
But in all actuality, he's just been masking the problem and continuing to use the whole time.
Same way we found out about cough medicine and Chlorocidin and all that stuff. When people died or had problems, we found out, well, why do they have all this Chlorocidin in their room?
Yep.
Or when they have the huffing. Have all the canisters.
CO2.
Where's all these CO2 canisters? Yes. All these canisters. Why?
Staple stock went up real quick.
I didn't know he had played with his pellet gun.
Things that you don't test for.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this we can test for. So all right. So let me play devil's advocate a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are you talking about this just simply because it's a product you guys have, and is this, obviously you are because you have it. This does kind of make you unique, you know. So while you have it and nobody else really has it, you got to shout out from the rooftop as fast as possible before everyone else gets it. But there's a bigger purpose here, right? The bigger purpose is everyone should be testing for this. Every company should. Yeah, what I'm saying is every lab should be doing this, right?
Correct.
I mean, that's the bigger play.
That's correct.
Right?
Synthetic urine should be illegal.
That's the biggest play.
I think they're moving to do that. I was just
they are.
It depends. So I think it's Indiana. I just posted a thing on our LinkedIn where it's now illegal. I think in Indiana.
Right.
So it's moving towards that. But yeah, obviously, we're to talk about the stigma. That's the hardest thing from the sales side that we have to face of a lab, right? To try to get a meeting with a provider or to get a meeting.
Nobody wants to talk to you.
No one wants to talk to me, right? So it's getting our foot in the door, and number one, showing we have something different, but number two, showing that we're different as a laboratory.
Right.
As we sit in and talk about the future of this company, excuse me, and where we want to grow, we don't want to be these greedy labs or these people that push too much or the people that overbill or they over test. And so it's getting past that stigma, getting our foot in the door, and showing that you're using an inferior product if you're not using a laboratory that tests for synthetic urine. You might as well not even be doing it because, it's just so beatable.
The best is when we hear offices and facilities tell us that, we don't really need it because we're using the instant reveal cups. That's just comical. When I hear people say that at facilities and as well as doctors' offices, one, we've been in this industry for a long time, right? I would say over half of those cups, if you give me 20 seconds, which someone could easily stay in the restroom 20 seconds to go to the bathroom,
right?
You can manipulate those cups within seconds, right? And then the fact is, if you're still collecting the urine and then you're sending it to one of the other labs, they just don't care. The big labs out there, they have the insurances in their back pocket. It's a money mill for them. I think what makes us different is it's a true problem, right? And because we're privately owned, we see this every day when we go into doctors' offices and we go into facilities. People are dying. I would like to know that one day, hopefully, when I meet the man upstairs, I can say, listen, I may have screwed up a lot in life, but let me tell you what we did do. And there is a purpose behind this. It's to help beat the growing epidemic of opioids. At the end of the day. And so as long as we can stay on the cutting edge of technology, we feel we can help.
Well, even before that, I got to be honest with you. When I hear it, I don't necessarily think about the opioid crisis as much as I think of the prevention for the younger generation that is getting drug tested, and they're the ones that are able to get over on their parents a lot more.
Yeah.
I think about all the young kids that when their parents get a drug test, they're really not watching. Hey, go pee in the bathroom and come back. Yeah. That prevention. If we don't focus on the prevention, then when the opioid crisis is over, then we're just like, we're good, we're done.
Yeah.
No. This is not going to end. If fake urine is out there and it's $1 billion industry, then our kids know about it. right?
Absolutely.
They're the
If
first
it's a
ones to
billion,
probably
yeah,
know
they're
about
the
it,
first
right?
ones to know about it. Anybody that has their professional license on the line knows about it.
Yeah.
So more than just the opioid crisis individuals, more than just them, is all the greater number, the bigger number. And the bigger number is you guys trying to get a job. You got to pass one drug test most of the time just to get that job.
Yep.
What do? They go online and they research. How do I pass a drug test? Those are the people usually trying to pass a drug test, right? Is the everyday person. So if you're out there and you're a physician, I guess what I'm hearing, if you're a physician or if you're a practitioner of any type, or if you're a parent of any type, and you're trying to figure out, how to do this properly, you're the ones we're talking to. Not just the substance abuse treatment centers.
Well,
substance abuse treatment centers at least are testing for some things and look. There's a lot of other stuff going on, and they're a little bit more open to this conversation than the everyday physician office, like the OBGYNs that are having delivering babies and stuff, the pain clinics that have to be so on top of things right now, psychiatrists, things like that. What were you going to say?
Well, I was going to say cancer starts small, right? So maybe it's someone that they're getting their first job, 16 years old, to work at a restaurant. They realize they have to get a drug screen, and maybe they have smoked pot,
That's it.
So they get on to do it. So then they pass that drug screen. Yeah. So then maybe they start doing other drugs, and they realize maybe they have to be drug screened at the doctor, or then they're in a conversation with their friend, and then that's how it spreads. So I mean, the prevention starts every time we can catch someone or expose this epidemic that's going on. Hopefully, instead of teaching people how to be drug screens, you teach people that you can't be drug screens.
And I think that's the greater picture.
It is.
Right.
Yeah.
And it
that's
totally
the bigger
is.
picture. It's
none of us would be in this lab because we've all been in the lab industry before. And without this test, not because it separates us, but because of the impact we could have, we wouldn't be in the lab industry again.
I totally agree. Right. I mean, at the end of the day, like you brought up earlier, the labs over the past few years, got a bad rap, right?
Right. But because of treatment centers.
Because
I'm the one out there. I'm not blaming the labs.
Yeah.
It's like blaming big pharma. Doctors. You guys, but you worked with big pharma. Big pharma made it, but you doctors were prescribing it. So I don't necessarily blame the labs. I blame them, but I don't blame them as much as I blame the treatment centers are the ones that are supposedly helping people.
Yep.
Labs, you knew were in it for business, but the treatment centers, these are people. Some are in recovery, some are therapists. These are people that worked hard.
They're employees
to help someone, and then we're lying to the client in their face. Yeah.
Yep.
So I'm not saying they were innocent.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that wasn't happening with the OBGYN lab.
Right.
The lab that was helping the gynecologist.
Yeah.
You know what
I mean, a lab who's doing PAPs every day, they didn't have any of these issues.
Yeah. You didn't hear about them on the news.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So I mean, there is a bigger problem that starts in med school, that starts in with your ethics,
right?
Because we meet with providers that drug test, and maybe they just do the point of care cup that has the drugs on it or whatever, or just do like a desktop analyzer, or don't want to know. They just want, if someone knocks on their door and comes in and all of them, they can say, I'm doing a drug screen.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's a bigger problem. If you don't want to know and you're prescribing controlled substances or Suboxone or whatever it is, that's a bigger problem, right? I mean, it's.
I've had a family practice doctor literally in my lab career tell me, I don't want to know.
Right.
And it literally threw me back, and I'm like, why? Why would you not want to know? And it's just like why some doctors, they only do basic blood testing, right? They only look at your lipids and your thyroids. They don't look at everything else, because if they discover it, they have taken an oath. Their oath is to treat and prevent. And if they don't want to know, then they don't have to know. Yeah. And I mean, that's about as messed up as you can get. Yeah. But unfortunately, like Max said, it starts in med school.
Yeah. Well, look, I'm going to akin it to this. If I specialize in feet,
right,
and I fix broken feet, I'm not doing an X-ray of your hand.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
You have a bad hand, go to that dude.
Yeah.
I'm here for your foot. And I think some practitioners take that route. If they specialize in a certain thing, that's what they want to focus on. Look, if you have other issues, someone else is going to handle it along the road. You know what I mean?
But here's the messed up part about that, right?
They don't look at it as a captured event.
What's messed up about that scenario is, what if they're handling a hand, or what if they're handling a foot,
right,
and a surgery went wrong, and now that patient's in chronic pain, and they start prescribing the opioids, but yet they still turn the other way.
Yeah.
No,
that's what's messed up.
I'm with you.
We're not approaching holistic doctors in our prescribing
right.
controlled substances. If we're talking to you, you're prescribing a controlled substances, and you need to be monitoring.
Right, and I think you're a protection. You're an added level of protection to
kind of
that
insurance,
practitioner.
yeah.
You worked hard for that medical degree.
Yep.
You know, if you're a physician out there and you're prescribing, you know darn well that there's your counterparts. Some of your counterparts have done some really horrible things that have placed an additional eyeball onto you. You are more at risk. Your malpractice insurance is a certain level because of the bad ones.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So
Your reputation.
Everything. Like if you actually are I feel sorry for true pain management physicians that aren't pill mill doctors, because they really do want to help you manage a pain that you will have for the rest of your life. But the clients that go there and the physicians that practice it now have to deal with the stigma attached.
Yeah.
But not only the
Because of
stigma,
what happened with pill mills and
but the
addicts.
liability. I mean, we work with some fantastic providers that we have close relationships with that are literally doing everything right. And the one doctor I'm thinking of just like told me, he's like, Mac, like I'm so scared of getting in trouble or someone ODing or someone doing something bad. And he's like, but I have, a patient I've been treating for 10 years in my office in tears that I know is in pain, telling me like, I'll kill myself if I can't get these pills. I mean, you're stuck behind a rock and a hard place, from doing your job. And there is a great need for controlled substances, right? So there is good that comes with treating patients. But I mean, it's such a stigma now. I mean, everyone's out to get you or everyone's out to sue you, right? I mean, it's just...
Yeah, and I think stigma is the really big one. The stigma about labs, the stigma about the clientele, the stigma about those that are suffering, all of that. Now, one thing I think about when you bring up this fake urine thing is that we don't have fake MRIs. You can't fake your MRI. You go into that, you get your MRI. I don't know of a thing you can do or purchase online to create an MRI that's not real for you.
At least we don't know about.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know of a fake X-ray. How do I fool an X-ray machine, or how do I fool an MRI?
Why would you even want to?
Well, I'm just saying. Well, because then
to be a pain patient,
then you can get a pain patient. Yeah. What I'm saying is that's not how they're getting it, because what they're doing is they'll steal someone else's MRI or pay someone to give them a fake MRI and stuff like that.
Fibromyalgia.
But there's no But there's no way to really create that. But there is.
Yeah.
There is an actual product being created just to manipulate a system, but also in the most vulnerable population there is, which is the population of the rules don't apply to me and I don't have a problem big enough for this to get in my way.
Yep.
I don't need help. I don't have a problem. I just have the problem of having to do this test. That's my problem. The fact that I have to do this test is my problem, not the fact that I'm using. And that's a vulnerable population, and that's what bothers me about this business practice of making fake urine and selling fake urine, is that you don't know who you're hurting and how many you're hurting by doing it.
I was up in Tallahassee, and my business partner and I don't think you went up there, and we were talking with one of the higher ups with DCF.
Yeah.
And he was going over the statistics in North Florida, how many children are in the system, so to speak, and how many parents are having issues with abuse, and therefore their children are being turned over into the system. And, honestly, coming out of this, from us coming from the lab side, we've always been medical reps. When I first started selling this, I always thought of it from the physician's point of view. I never really looked at it outside of a physician's point of view, to be honest with you. And he was telling us, he's like, so imagine this. Imagine I, as a DCF worker, go to someone's house, and I have the family member who's in danger of losing their children take a drug test, and they've used synthetic urine. Mm-hmm. He goes, and they pass. He goes, and at that time, when my collector's there, they're sober. He goes, but what happens 4 hours later when nighttime comes, the kids are asleep, and they start doing drugs, unfortunately, and he goes, the house burns down. And they're too high to get the children out. Or what happens when they get behind the steering wheel and they're trying to take their children somewhere and they're high. All because they beat the system. And we brought it up earlier. Think about the guy who is a pilot, right? And I've heard this story numerous times, but slipped up. Maybe went out on vacation, did something he shouldn't have done. Now he's buying fake urine. Well, let's say he's on a layover and he's flying a plane 2 days later. And guess what? Now that turns into a habit. Think how many lives could die
Right.
die.
That's exactly what I'm thinking.
Because of a plane crash, a truck driver, a school bus driver. I mean, and now
a school bus driver just got caught.
Right.
Yeah,
it's all.
But that's why I wanted you guys to come in.
Yeah,
because
man, it's crazy.
Because look, this show has been known to rattle feathers. You know what I mean? To shake people up. If you're a treatment center and you suck, we're going to say you suck. You know what I mean? Sue us. You know. But you're going to have to. We're still going to be talking about you sucking while I'm in the news because you're suing me.
Yeah.
I guarantee that. So you probably don't want that. This had to be talked about because that's exactly what I was thinking, brother. Just what you said. Of all the people that may not be addicts, but if you are using something and you can't stop it long enough to pass your drug test, well, you have to do this.
There's an issue.
You need to take a look at that.
Hello, McFly. That's an issue.
Yeah, you need to be looking at yourself and saying, I'm actually having right now to buy fake urine.
Yeah.
To keep my medical license or my pilot's license or my DOT or my children. This is what I'm having. So maybe, just maybe, my parents aren't just being assholes.
Yeah.
Well,
maybe I have a problem here.
Enrique actually posed a question.
Okay.
He was talking about, I guess, the Secretary of Health and Human Services has proposed revisions to include oral fluid specimens.
Okay.
And his question was essentially, how about saliva testing and the fact that it is much more difficult to mask?
So
okay, good question. I think these guys
go
should
ahead. Yeah, this is a fun one.
Yeah, I mean, it's fairly easy to sell against oral swab collection. There are some times when it's needed, maybe in some geriatric situations, shy bladder people, but people all the time will try to say, I can't urinate, right? Or, I can't. They try, right? So they're sitting there for 45 minutes. There are so many ways to beat the oral swab. I mean, it is the cutoff levels are much higher. You can't test for as many drugs. A lot of times there's insufficient amount of saliva, so the test comes back that it was ineffective. So, I mean, the majority of people we talk with, we push, no pee, no pill. So, I mean, it's a very inaccurate test. So, we do not recommend it unless there's, the situation where it's just too hard for them to.
Well, think about it. Everything that goes into your body, food or liquid, is always going to be excreted through bile and urine.
Right.
I mean, that's straight science, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
When you're trying to excrete something through saliva, it's a total different mechanism of action in the body. So that's why urine is always and always will be the golden standard.
Yeah.
You can take anything with a urine or a mouth saliva test. There's so many things. Caffeine can throw it off.
Yeah. Sure.
Dry mouth can throw it off. You name it. There's actually gums now that you can buy, $100, and you chew the gum, neutralizes all the
$100 gum.
$100 gum neutralizes everything in your mouth, and you're gonna
huge bubbles.
Yeah.
No, but the other problem too is there's some drugs that may stay in the saliva for like up to 6 hours.
Right.
Well, if you do a urine test between the parent drug and the metabolite, it could be 72 hours. Right. So unless they did the drug, that morning, you're gonna miss it.
So Enrique brings up an interesting question. You have an interesting response. So here's my follow-up question to what I'm hearing. Then, are you not making a case for blood testing, and why not blood testing then instead of urine at all?
Well, the problem is
we'll be sticking everybody.
Yeah. And the majority of clinics we're in, they do not have a phlebotomist. They don't draw blood. And at that point, what you could be telling someone to do is, to drive somewhere. That's why we push administering the drug screens in the office, because as soon as they walk out of their door, what's going to happen? They're
free game
not
at that
show
point.
up. They're going to go get something to try to beat the system. But the point I was thinking about earlier, and the need really for this test is with Purdue getting busted with new legislation where parent drugs family practice, internal medicine can't prescribe for longer than 30 days. There's so much legislation to make it harder and harder to get controlled substances that these patients are going to do anything and everything they can to beat the system, because they can no longer get it to every single doctor on every every single street corner. And a lot of addicts start there, right? It starts with hydrocodone, and then it leads to heroin or whatever it may be. So I mean, it's just so needed.
I mean, I think we all know someone. I think everyone in this room knows someone who started on some sort of substance abuse path that was actually prescribed by a doctor for a good reason. I mean, I have a personal friend who, and I always tell this story, who had really, really bad strep throat during his professional career. I think I told you this when I went at the lab that day. And couldn't get rid of it, did 2 doses of antibiotics really bad, and finally, I mean, bleeding in his throat, the doctor gave him the cough syrup with the codeine. I think now, last time I heard, I think he's been in and out of a facility. I think he's on his 4th time, right? And then again, it just keeps getting bigger. He started with the codeine cough syrup. I mean, and last, I don't, unfortunately, I haven't spoken to him in years, but I've heard, it's gotten all the way into the Oxycontins and everything else. But, hell, I don't know if he's even using the synthetic urine and just when he's in rehab. I have no clue. But so many of these patients start out as patients that want to be compliant. They start small, and then it just takes over.
Yeah. Again, I can't get my mind out of thinking the people that we don't think about, which is everybody. Because if you have a job, the likelihood of you having to go do a urine sample because of that job is pretty high. I think I would want to say, Trinity, you tell me, am I wrong? Don't most employments recommend a drug test for employment?
For insurance, it keeps insurance.
Yeah, a lot of them do.
I mean, I all the good ones at least.
Well,
right?
The issue that I'm having on the same thing. I know you mentioned, like pilots, doctors, things of that nature. But on the other, we haven't rolled it out, obviously, but we're still working on our prevention thing for the foundation.
Right.
So obviously, being the fact that we're both parents, I can't help but to kind of lean that way as well.
Yeah, man.
In the sense of, it's a very dangerous precedent to set, right? Like when you have this this idea of drug tests, like, ooh, that's going to get you, and it kind of scares them a little bit. And the worst thing that our kids have now, you said before that the internet is good and bad. Part of the reason why the internet's bad is because they can research what, things to back up what they believe in, and they're so confident that they believe in it that they don't leave, this slight little error like, hey, maybe I could be wrong, who knows. And so the worry that I have is with the youth today. Maybe it's just weed at first, who knows, but they do it and they get away with it. And then they're like, oh, well then yeah, I can do it. And that removes that fear. And for a lot of kids, not all of them, but I would say a huge amount of them, it's the threat of being caught is actually what probably stops a lot of them.
Start getting cocky.
Yeah, well, it's not. They're not.
Yeah.
At that age, you're not thinking about my future. You're not thinking about death. You're more worried about getting caught. So if you remove that barrier of entry to them, where they're no longer afraid of getting caught, one who normally wouldn't experiment might be more willing to experiment now.
Yeah,
right.
And we all know it only sometimes can take one. It can kill you.
Well, I mean, risky behavior. That's how risky behavior begins,
Yeah.
right? I mean, you rode a bicycle before you rode a motorcycle. You ride a motorcycle a little bit faster before you ride it even faster. Before you take your hands off the wheel, before you do jumps, or before you do what Trinity used to do, which is stand on it. I mean, you don't stand on a motorcycle not holding anything before you rode it.
Yeah.
So risky behavior is a cumulative process, and so when adults or people that you may not like what they're saying says this is a gateway, what they're really just saying is that what I just said. It's a cumulative process of risky behavior. You know what I mean? And so as you make further movements of greater risk, or you take greater risks because you want a better reward, or because the rewards you were getting aren't good enough anymore, and you want better rewards. That's the danger point. And so when you're being marketed to, because you're taking these risks, and they're marketing to you, they're making it look like a product that you would like. They're making the packaging look like something you would like. They're wording it in ways that they know you would like. They sound like your friend. They sound like they're your hookup. They sound like they're your boy, letting you know, hey man, if all you gotta do is this, and you'll be good. So you kind of feel like, oh, they're on my side. It's an us versus them. The problem is we don't know how this is going to play out in the long run. We don't know the end game, right? And that's where the more we know, information is king. So as you guys collect this data here from your lab, I think we'll be better off. We need this data.
Oh, hands down.
Yes.
It's a shame to have the data of that it's $1 billion industry, but we don't know how many people.
The impact here.
The impact, yeah. It's a shame.
You know what's crazy, and one thing that gets under my skin about it, right? So as a business owner, and you guys too, my health insurance, my monthly cost of health insurance is off the chart, right? I mean, it's stupid.
Tell me about it.
And they talk about how people that go into relapse cost over $55 million a year. And that's just in the southern United States. That's how much is spent. Do you know insurance companies will not let labs like us in network because they're so in bed with the two big boys, and because we're on a podcast, I'm not going to say their names. You guys can, but I'm not going to say their names.
I can.
Yeah.
I can. You're talking about when you have LabCorp
Yeah.
out there getting all the business.
Yep.
Because they kind of make it easy. Because they don't. Look, we got to touch on that because we have 4 more minutes. People are worried about the pricing.
Yeah,
and
man.
that's what LabCorp Quest Labs. See, you can't Quest Labs, but that's what they do, right? Is because you can trust the billing procedures. You know what I mean? So how is this billed? Is this just something really expensive for the end user, for the physician, for the insurance companies? What is the pricing?
We eat the cost on the synthetic urine test, so we run it on every single drug screen, no charge to the insurance, no charge to the patient. So
say that one more time, because when we say that, everyone everyone thinks we're full of it when we say that. We do it on every single screen that comes into that lab.
Because you're collecting data.
Because we're collecting, and there's no reimbursement code for it, right? So we do it because we want to make a difference.
Wait, there's no reimbursement code for it.
So we pay it out of my business partner. We pay for this out of our pocket. Wow. We do it to help give back. And here's what's crazy: insurance companies will not allow labs like us to get in network with them. When the average patient relapses 5 times and they're wasting $55 million a year, when we could be a huge gap there, a huge resolution to merge that gap and to get rid of it. You want to talk about the system being messed up? I mean, that's a whole nother.
Oh, it's a monopoly,
dude. That's a whole nother.
There's a monopoly. Scratching the back of a building.
Oh, it's and here. Let me tell you this, because I've used them before. Their service sucks. Now I'm gonna get in trouble. No, I'm just saying. It's just look. They have their market, but this is a capitalist society. Everyone should have an opportunity, right? But the point is when you have something unique and cool and something necessary, you should be allowed to at least talk about it and sell it. But here's my concern. This is something that really should be mandatory. It's like you shouldn't be able to do surgery on a patient without an x-ray or an MRI. I think there's probably a law out there. I don't remember ever getting a cast on any part of my body without an x-ray. Right? And I think there's a lot of procedures that got done on me that would not have been done. We need the MRI first. Let's get the MRI first.
Yeah.
So to deal with a human being, put a medication in their body or treat them for things that are exogenous things, meaning outside the body, without knowing what's in the body already or what they're using, it's malpractice, man. Yeah. It's malpractice. Look, it's your x-ray, it's your MRI. Your lab testing is your x-ray and MRI. If you're not doing lab testing, and if you are, then do it. Don't half-ass do it. Half measures availed us nothing. Remember that? This is what you tell clients. Well, aren't you half measuring your lab testing? Aren't you testing for something but not others because, well, the lab I use doesn't use that, and this is my boy. He has that lab, and I like that lab, and labs. I'm so sick of labs. They're all criminals. That's your reason you're not doing the MRI in X-ray. Final minutes. You guys have last words. Last the things that you think we need to know about synthetic urine, fake piss, fake urine, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I mean the thing is, they're already testing, so you might as well test with.
It's already captured.
You might as well test with the most accurate laboratory out there, and we feel that we are that. But being smaller, being nimble, we customize everything because we want to be a true partner. We're not one of these billion-dollar companies that wants to drop off supplies and say test everyone, send everything, right? Every client that we have, we customize a program that's for them, for their customers, and to make the best experience and to get the most accurate results. And we're very excited. We're having a lot of success, and we think the sky's the limit. And every patient that we catch, to see the doctor be like, oh my gosh, like I've been prescribing to this patient for this long. That's why we're in this industry.
Okay, so you said partners. So I'm gonna test it. Do you partner with other labs that want your services of testing the fake urine? Would you partner with another lab in order to do that? Is there some negotiation that can happen to make that happen?
If there's another lab out there that is captivated by what we've said, you by all means give them my info.
There you go.
Because what I was going to say is,
amen.
On the flip side, right? Obviously, this is a business for us, right?
Right.
But more importantly, we're here to help the problem.
Well, that's the plus, right? Yeah. To be in a business, to get paid for something you love to do and has a purpose is a bonus.
Yeah. And to validate that, like we said earlier, we do it for free. I'm not making money on it. right? I mean,
You're
we're
losing
doing it.
money on
Well,
that
I'm
bet.
losing money by doing it. But here's the thing: it is so important that if we don't do it, I can tell you the big two aren't going to do it. So if we've got to start at the bottom of the ladder and work our way up, then that's what we're going to do.
Right on.
That's our mission right there.
Yeah.
We want to put a stop and do our contribution to help make a difference.
All right. What's the name of the lab?
Nona Scientific Laboratory, Ocala, Florida.
And how can people get in touch with you?
You can reach me via email at mreynolds, REYNOLD as in David S, at nonascientific.com. Again, mreynolds at nonascientific.com or
info@nonascientific.com. And that goes for, providers, addiction clinics, for sales reps that maybe have worked for other laboratories that are looking to, partner with us.
I think that's going to be the key.
Yeah, man.
I think the invitation to all you businesses out there, all you labs out there, call them up, figure out a way to partner with it. I mean, if you're in this business, it's business. Okay, we're a capitalist society. There's no shame in making money, but if you can do the right deal while you're making money, that's even better. Trinity, last words.
No, man. I think it's a real problem. So I think instead of sticking your head in the sand and trying to pretend it's not there, approach it and get it dealt with. There's people out there obviously that can help deal with it. So take advantage of it. And also, Tina Keaton gave you a shout out there.
Hey. Also, I want to give a shout out to Debbie Wise.
Yeah,
Debbie's our girl. She is. She's awesome to work with. Tina, thank you so much for giving us a shout out, and anyone else there who saw it that supports Nona Scientific, who's backed us so far. We truly appreciate it.
Right on. Well, yeah, I mean, that's exactly what I was just about to do. I was about to say thank you very much, Debbie, for introducing me to these guys. I actually went out and toured the lab, like you said, a couple times that I was out there. I actually went and looked at it before having them on the show. We just think that's important, Trinity and I, is to go, if somebody because we get pitched all the time about different things. Everybody wants to talk about their programs and their services without going and making sure it's the real deal, at least from glance, and wouldn't have done it. But I really would not have come out if it wasn't for Debbie. I got to be honest with you.
Yeah. Debbie's awesome.
Yeah, Debbie telling me that it was worthy of driving over there to Ocala, checking it out, meeting you guys, seeing if you're the real deal. I got to admit, I was intrigued because of that product. I mean, I know you're giving it away for free, but it's also the end cap, right? It's also the barn. What do you call it when you Black Friday of the barn door? What is the product that you put in the newspaper to get everybody to come in, but you ran out of it?
Doorbuster.
I'm like, Blockbuster. I'm like, that went out of business years ago.
I don't always have all that.
What does barn have to do with the doorbuster?
Yeah, what does a barn have to do with Doorbuster or Blockbuster?
I do have to say, because you toured the lab.
It's like the door. It's the doorbuster, but I mean, it has value. What was that?
Yeah, and I mean, just to point out again, because we've talked about synthetics so much. We are a full service laboratory, so they can run all their blood, they can run their toxicology, so full service. Yeah,
and that's what I was going to say. They're not just this. I mean, we're talking about this because it's this show, and so we're talking about it. So we talked about the specialty of this, but they're a full service laboratory. Anyway, I do want to thank you guys for coming.
Thanks for having us, man.
God, man. I wish you much luck. I hope every treatment center and everybody that works in this industry is listening. I hope that they take your phone calls, brother, and you can at least go in there and talk to them or invite them out to the lab, and they can tour it themselves and have that conversation. And I hope everyone that's prescribing anything is willing to call them up and finding out a little bit more about your services and if it fits within their practice. It sounds like something you can add as a complement to what you're already doing. You may not be doing any toxicology whatsoever. You might just hear this and say, you know what, maybe I need to know more. Anyway, thank you all for listening, and that's it, right, Attorney? Nothing else?
I think it's National Taco Day.
Also,
on that note, adios, amigos.
See ya.
It's time for a taco. Goodbye.
And that was without even a single drop of rum.
That was awesome.
He really grows on you, doesn't he?